All right, I'm going to start by saying I watched Leaving Las Vegas on the big screen 30 years ago.
Me too.
With my sponsor.
Not with my sponsor.
And it was a bright, sunshiny day, and you know how dark and awful the atmosphere in that movie is.
Yes.
Dank and depressing and death at every turn. And I staggered out into the sunlight, and I remember clearly thinking, glad I saw it. I will never sit through that thing again. Well, yesterday I rented it and watched it. How about you?
Yeah, so I saw it with my parents.
No.
At the Boston Film Festival, and which means that the movie hadn't opened yet and nobody knew what it was. If it was 30 years ago, I was either not sober yet or
28. It's 28, I think.
28.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
So I had some idea of what the impact of the content was that they were dealing with. I was just sort of getting a sense of what that all meant. And I remember being surprised at how successful the movie was when it came out. Finally.
So were they?
Yeah, and it got, all these Oscar, Nicolas Cage won the Oscar, Elizabeth Shue sort of elevated her status to a serious actress.
And rightfully. Did you know it was shot on 16 for $2 million?
No.
Yes. Nobody had, are you kidding me?
No one was doing that.
No, nobody smelled a hit with this. And so it grossed, I don't know, tens of millions on a $2 million budget. And as you say, it was a
huge critical hit. And Mike Figgis, who I've always liked, he's a very interesting director. I think he was surprised when I read that the film did as well as it did. But the question is, why was it successful? What was it about the film that caught on? It wasn't like a blockbuster, but the fact that it caught on as it did to audiences. And I think the movie sticks to its agenda and its style and doesn't compromise from it. And it just goes down that dark road without any sort of false hope, or it just really shows it like it is. And I think that's probably what people connected with is like, I haven't seen a movie like this done this way with this high level performances, and it caught on. So.
Well, there was a lane for sex dramas in the 90s that no longer exists.
Yeah. Morning After with Jane Fonda, that was another one we could talk about.
How about even popcorn movies like the Sharon Stone, Sliver, and the famous one?
Oh, yeah. Well, there's Basic Instinct.
Basic Instinct, sorry.
Yeah.
Brain fart. And so on. And by the end of the 90s, I was kind of done.
Yeah.
And there's nobody fucking in movies anymore that I'm aware of. It's on HBO and so on.
Oh,
but not in theaters.
Actually, the older I get, no, I wouldn't say prudish, but I get less comfortable with like gratuitous sex scenes. And I see a lot of it on it's a way to sort of engage, titillate people, especially if there's not a lot else going on, to sort of keep people interested. But
if one has not seen Leaving Las Vegas, titillate is not a word I would use. But look, there's different strokes for different folks. But
titillate might not be the right word, but provocative. Yes, it's provocative, and that's certainly a seller. If you talk to producers, that's what they look for if they're reading a script. Is this movie provocative? Does it include something that is for adults and that is a little bit keeps you interested on a certain level? That's a bit. I think speaks to our dark sides as human beings.
It was dark, and I think I read about the 16 millimeter aspect before I rewatched it yesterday, and it occurred to me that that gives it a funkiness and a graininess that sometimes a recipe just comes together and you can't duplicate it. You can't know why. Like to pick a dumb example, it popped into my head: Get Shorty versus Be Cool. The Get Shorty follow up. I mean, you go from the greatest thing ever to
Well, and if you talk to people that are making the film, I remember seeing a interview with Louise Fletcher about One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and she said the production was a mess. They fired the DP halfway through.
Really?
And and she said, I think during the filming of it, this is going to be the worst movie ever made. It didn't exactly turn out to be the opposite, one of the great American films. But at the time, nobody knew as they were making it what they had.
Well, okay. So here's I picked 30 years ago because that's a good shorthand. It was filmed 29 years ago and released 28 years ago.
Yeah.
Couple of things. In my memory, neither one of these actors was 30 years old when they made it. Especially Nicolas Cage seemed like a burnout.
Late 40s, I would think.
He was 31.
He was 31 when he made the film.
Buddy, it was 1995. It's 2023.
You're right.
I know that
I've never been good at math, so
well, okay.
Yeah.
He's 60 now, and it was 30 years ago.
Okay, there
I'm
you
rounding.
go.
Same with her. Okay, let's do this. There's a scene in the shower at the end. He's just getting there's nothing. There's no sex aspect to it. He's taking a shower, but he's got about twice the hair I've got, which is about like a hound dog.
Okay,
and now with his incredible burden of being incredibly talented movie from last year, he's got these thick flowing locks. I'm like, we know, right?
Yeah, no, it's interesting. Well, and at that time, he was pretty hot. I mean, he had. I think this definitely elevated him as it did with Elizabeth Shue. But he had been in like Moonstruck and a lot of other really successful movies.
Was Wild at Heart before this? David Lynch.
Yes,
because I remember being knocked out by that.
Wild at Heart was late 80s, like 88.
Okay,
yeah.
All right, so he was, I'm a person who really enjoyed Peggy Sue Got Married, and he seemed like swing and a miss, but it works okay.
He's kind of goofy in that as he is in Valley Girl, and it kind of works.
It kind of worked. It was right on the edge of work and not working to me.
Yeah,
but I loved the movie, and he was a big part of it. So, and then Wild at Heart, I remember liking. I haven't seen it since the big screen. So, I had a high opinion of this. He took his Best Actor Oscar, and some would argue cashed in. Started doing every action film that came down the pipe. Face
Off, was that after?
That was a good movie. That was a good popcorn movie.
I admittingly have not seen it. So
no, this is worth watching. Yeah. Okay, so this here's something that in my memory.
Yes.
I thought that this movie began with that quiet firing scene. Here's your check and see you later.
Mm-hmm.
He's burnt every bridge in L.A. Mm-hmm. He was some manner of big shot, a producer, a script doctor, something. We can't. They never make it clear. But he's at like CAA with 100,000 scripts in his office, and he gets called into the big boss's office, and he goes, "We're letting you go." The only thing on the boss's desk is a check in an envelope. Slides it over to him. And he whispers, this is very generous. So in my mind, it was like $1 million, because the package deals in L.A. are money you can't even imagine.
Right.
So that was my memory, is that he's given $1 million severance, and he goes to Vegas to drink himself to death. In actual fact, that's 20 minutes into the movie. Mm-hmm. And if I've done my math right, the check's about $10,000, because he checks into a no-tell motel. It's $29 a night. Soap is extra. Towels are extra. And he says to Elizabeth Shue, "Yeah, I think at about $300 a day, I think I'm done in about 4 weeks," something like that. I was like, holy crap, he's got a BMW and a Rolex watch that he quickly sells. But I thought he had just oceans of fuck you money. It was like $10,000.
Right, because he'd be staying in a nicer, he'd be staying at the Chateau Marmont, something.
Or like if he was Bukowski and he liked shitty motels, he could have stayed there the rest of his life. Was what I was saying. Well, define rest of your life. He's going to be dead in a month, and they tell us that up front.
Right. And it's interesting that Elizabeth Shue is why is she interested in him, or why is she attracted to him, or what is it that she's getting from that relationship? But she is also on a different kind of downward spiral in her life. And it's not just because of him. There's some other issue going on with her that, and in a way, she's the more sympathetic. I mean, she's the one you could sort of connect with more. But, I think that's connection that they have is that they're both accepting that they're on this dark path, but yet they still have each other.
No judging here. God damn. So, and there's a device that she is frequently shown talking to, presumably an unseen therapist or something. We never see the person, but she talks in a manner that seemed to me like she's, spilling the beans.
It's probably a therapist. Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Even though it could be argued that tells the story, that it's a narrative frame. I didn't take it that way. I took it as a peek inside her brain, and that she fancied herself a Clute kind of Jane Fonda. Hey, I'm in control.
Clute uses the same device where she's talking to a therapist. It's not clear who it is, but it's framing the story and giving the audience some inside info into her that we wouldn't have had otherwise. It's like an exposition.
Well, there's some information, but I think she's what you writers call an unreliable narrator, and I think we know that.
Right.
She's like, she believes maybe what she's saying, but I didn't.
Well, I think all narrators are unreliable. Really. I mean, they're humans, and they're going to make things up and tell you, exaggerate the truth or whatever, as we all do. So
let me throw a couple of things that hadn't I hadn't remembered from so long ago. The first person to speak in the movie, Richard Lewis, who has been. I looked it up to make sure.
We talked about him for another film that we could include on this show. Wasn't he in Drunks?
Yeah. I think he's a great stand-up, even though he's retired recently, and a better actor. He's a friend of mine. I haven't seen him since I moved here, but I could say we're friends. And so I looked up to make sure I was on solid ground. He is extremely public about his recovery. Yeah. He tweets about it. He talks about it in interviews. So I'm not violating anything if I just simply quoted. He's been sober a long time, and he loves being sober, and he's extremely vocal about it in public. So if that satisfies anybody who's
well, it's funny because the movie has no recovery in it. I mean, it's there's no you should go to an AA meeting. There's no you need to go to rehab. It's just
zero. Unlike the other two movies we're going to talk about, which if somebody's going to pause and watch these movies. You picked them, and goddamn, we're the only. Did you watch them in the last 2 days? Because I did.
I did watch. I did find Sarah T on YouTube. It's a terrible copy, but the
real yellow old timey copy with the countdowns and stuff. It had everything except the commercials for Juicy Fruit. And then help me. What was the third? I'll Cry Tomorrow.
I'll Cry Tomorrow, which I have seen many times, but not recently.
Gotcha. Okay,
but I remember it well enough to have some discussion about it.
I'm the only guy in America that has watched all three of these in the last 36 hours. Somebody's looking at my viewing history going, my man's got a problem. Or he's innocent. And by the way, just as an accident of arithmetic, 1955, 1975, 1995.
Interesting.
These are exact 20-year hops from a snazzy, well-regarded Hollywood movie from the 50s that reminded me, for all the world, of Douglas Sirk, like Imitation of Life. Right. It was like a pot boiler, but I was with it. I was with that one. I liked it.
I'll Cry Tomorrow? Yeah. Well, it's actually a very sad movie, and it does have hope at the end, definitely, but the times I've seen it, I remember feeling my heart was really going out to Lillian and what she was going through, and I think it really started this trend of like celebrity biopics dealing with mental health or substance abuse that focuses almost more on that than the creativity of that individual's life.
Much was made at the time that a Marnie Nixon type was hired to sing for her, and they're like, "This sounds great. Let's just leave it alone." And I was skeptical because it is all lip synced anyway. But that's true. And I was like, "Do I buy it? Do I not buy it?" And then I saw that there is in existence. For lack of a better term, original cast recording album you can buy.
Oh, really?
That's got the Marnie Nixon sub and her own singing in it. So she's pretty good. It works.
Well, Susan Hayward has sung in other films.
No. It was according to my research. This is the only one they let her real voice come through.
Oh, okay. Because I've seen her sing in other films, and I assumed it was
her character song. It wasn't her voice. So they say that this is the one they went. Man, she kind of nailed it. Let's leave it alone.
Yeah.
And so I'll accept that for the sake of argument. All movies are unintentional documentaries, and this 1955 Hollywood thing, like when they show her on a 2-story set on a Paramount soundstage doing "Sing You Sinners," looked for all the world like No Dames in help me the Coen Brothers Hollywood George Clooney thing.
Oh, you're not talking about. Brother, Where Art Thou?
No, the one that's.
The Hollywood one. I didn't think that was one of their better films, but I do remember seeing it.
Yeah, but there's the big silly musical number, and I swear they must have watched "Sing You Sinners" a bunch of times when they were choreographing it. It was a short walk to that one.
Yeah.
And I'm also always interested in what's on a soundstage and what's not, because they're opening fire hydrants on a New York street corner. It's the first time we see Joe Van Fleet. Now, this is the same year East of Eden came out.
Wow.
So Joe Van Fleet absolutely crushes it as James Dean's estranged mom, madam, whatever she is in East of Eden. When she's walking down the street with the little girl, I went, great casting. She really looks like Susan. Hey, I never noticed how much Joe Van Fleet looks like an older Susan Hayward. So then they're in the movie together at first, she's the mother of a 6-year-old. Then for the rest of the movie, she's the mother of an adult. Do you know how far apart they are in age, Joe Van Fleet and Susan Hayward?
No.
2 years.
Okay.
Joe Van Fleet is 2 years older than
There have
Susan.
been many funny instances of that in Hollywood history, like in Earthquake when Ava Gardner is Lauren Green's mother. And I think she's actually younger than he was at the time. But, as actors, we change ages all the time, right? So it's not
Manchurian Candidate.
Oh, right. Angela Lansbury is the mother of
Lawrence Harvey.
Right.
They're like the same age.
Yeah.
They're showing Earthquake at the Fox when they walk past it.
Oh, okay.
In the TV movie from 1975.
Right.
Do you know, you're an LA guy, do you know why they still use 2 or 3 theaters, including the Fox Westwood, for premieres?
No.
Standalone single screens.
Oh, well, yeah.
It's not a multiplex.
Which is rare now.
Very rare.
Yeah.
Another one is Tarantino just bought the one in Los Feliz, the Vista.
Oh, okay, because I knew didn't he buy the New Beverly?
That's been his for forever.
Yeah.
And he just bought the, I say just 2, 3, 4 years ago, bought the Vista. And that's another beloved, because you kind of get the old Hollywood vibe when you see the background, and there's not a marquee with 12.
Right. It has the feel of the classic old movie theater experience that you don't get in a Cineplex.
But yeah, I was delighted to hit the pause button when I saw Earthquake, because I saw that on the big screen with Sense around.
I did too. My mom used to take us to all the disaster movies. It was like a thing that we did. So that was, yes, I remember seeing Earthquake was a memorable experience, and it definitely impacted me on a strange level. But in any case.
All right, here's a topic I'm going to address, and I don't want to, but
that's all right.
In the sense of accuracy or whatever you want to say, there's rape in all 3 of these things.
Yeah, it's. I think particularly in Leaving Las Vegas, it's very hard to take, and I'm you wonder like how would they deal with these issues now? I think gratuitous sexual violence in movies was considered sort of okay until in the last 10 years or so, and now people have said, is this really how we need to represent this topic, or is it gratuitous? Is there another way that we can handle it? But it does show you, particularly through the decades, how things were sort of accepted in terms of
of course, it's. And I don't know, George Lucas said, like, in 1973, George Lucas said, I know how to get the audience, against a guy. Just have him shoot the dog in the first reel, and you've got him forever. Right. So the rape thing is God, what do you want to say? It's a trope. It's so predictable, and yet it kind of works, because you just want to go into the room and spray everybody with bullets who's the rapist.
Well, and I think in terms of the topic we're dealing with about, alcoholism, it almost shows you how these characters, which all are dealing with women, Leaving Las Vegas obviously is obviously, male and female, but the risk, I think it's trying to show the risks particularly to women at that time who were not fully in control of their faculties.
None of it's inaccurate, but when you see 3 of them from 3 different generations, you're like,
I think even one is hard. But I think that's partly why Leaving Las Vegas isn't a film that you want to go back to a lot, because those scenes are very, very tough to take.
Did you catch who the presumed molester rapist in I'll Cry Tomorrow was?
No.
Dude, Timothy Carey. Do you know this guy?
No.
Oh, okay. Check him out. I looked up the year. It's the same year as The Killing, Kubrick's.
Oh, I did see The Killing a million years ago,
Here's the one who talks like this and pulls up in the snazzy little sports car and chases off the African-American guy by saying, racist stuff to him. To get him out of there, because he didn't want any witnesses. So, and he's also genius in another Kubrick, Paths of Glory.
Yeah, I love that movie.
He's one of the ones that's on trial for not storming the anthill.
Oh, okay.
So he's a irreplaceable character actor, and I just don't know what to say about Timothy Carey, except he's got his own space in film, and he lived to be. I saw him in interviews, in Joe Franklin level interviews in the 80s in LA, but besides those 2 amazing Kubrick performances, he had a movie from the early 60s that's a cult killer diller called The World's Biggest Sinner, and I would direct you to that one.
I've not heard of it.
So, yeah, this guy is he almost makes you uncomfortable at home watching his performances on the screen. I don't know how else to tell it, but she's in a flop house, and he makes his way into her room, and you see him on screen for all of 1 second. I freeze her, and I'm like, Timothy Carey, uncredited as a derelict who's about to molest our hero.
Well, and at the end of the movie, doesn't Lillian she does enter AA, and then she has a male sponsor that she then has an affair with?
Unclear.
It's unclear. But it would also, though, be unusual for a woman to have a male sponsor at that time.
There's a lot unusual about that. And it's the great Eddie Albert, who was a hero in real life and quite a guy. But they make much of his polio, so I don't know if that affects...
Oh, functionality. Yeah, I don't. It's not clear either. But it is clear that there's some relationship going on that's past
they're falling in love. They're falling in love emotionally. That's no doubt about that. Let's talk about I thought this was interesting. And I don't know if it's how... I don't know what the creator's intent was. But she sure gains and loses a lot of husbands off screen. We don't know about it. They come back, and I ran it back. I'm like, did I miss something? And
it could have been on the cutting room floor.
Don't know, but it's kind of cool because it's kind of like the disjointed alcoholic brain.
Well, I think, because of the Hays Code, you could show that a woman having multiple partners as long as there was some moral consequence to her, which there is.
Okay.
So,
I see.
Yeah.
Yeah, because she marries the love of her life. He dies of a disease. And then she finds herself married to the army guy she meets in a bar. She finds herself married to Richard Conte, who's number 2 on the call sheet for no reason. He must have been having a big year in his career, or he must have been on the launch pad with the studio or something. Mm-hmm. There's no reason. He's like the 12th biggest character in the movie, and he's number 2 on the opening credits.
Yeah, that's a lot.
And it's pretty compelling because he's such a two-faced. You see him off screen being violent as shit and being really cool in person. So that I found that somewhat effective.
No, it's again atypical. I mean, this is the 50s, and it is, I think, not the kind of film that you saw that period of time. You were talking about Douglas Sirk, which had more of a Technicolor sort of green feel.
It doesn't have the visuals.
This does not have that. No. Yeah.
Yeah, there was a great turn in the Richard Conte character to me where when she meets him, he's not exactly a teetotaler, but he doesn't overdrink. And then they're on a train trip, married, I think. He's ordering bottles of stuff, and he's like, "Yeah, it's for me, it's not for you." And she's like, I thought you were cool like that. And he goes, "Don't worry about it."
I thought that was neat. My favorite scene, or the one that I remember the most, is when the waitress is giving Lillian tips on how to keep a flask in your purse in case you might need it later, and then you can just take a nip when you want. And her expression in that scene, she's just so humiliated, and she just kind of sits there.
Yes, I'm glad you mentioned that. Props to Susan Hayward for her. She knows the camera's on her, and so she's got some physical stuff going, and it worked for me. I thought it was great. I thought it was. I got a feeling she knows somebody because I knew somebody, and they had it looked like an act out of that. Oh, here's one. Claire Trevor in Key Largo. John Huston.
I haven't seen it.
Movie. It's great. Bogart.
Yeah.
Edward G. Robinson. Bogey and Bacall. Mm-hmm. It's a great one. And Claire Trevor is an alcoholic that can be bought for a bottle. And she sings a torch song a la Sing You Sinners in the middle of it. The guys that are the asshole mobsters that are forcing her to sing for their deranged amusement. They're trapped in a place they can't get out of. And they're like, if you want a bottle, you got to get up and sing. And they're looking at each other like, man, she used to be good. She used to could sing. She can't sing anymore. And I've since heard that on the day, without any warning, John Huston said, "You're singing today." And Claire Trevor's not a singer. She goes, "No, I'm not." And he said, "Oh, yeah, you are." And he showed her some moves that were very much like Susan Hayward and Sing You Sinners, where you stick your arms up on certain words and stuff. And he goes, "On this word, hold your arm like that." And in 3, 2, 1. And she sings about like me, which is not good. That was the whole idea is he pulled her, threw her on stage and said, "Sing now, stick your arms out at the end of each stanza." And it's horrible to watch. You feel terrible for her because she's dancing for a drink, and it's just terrible. But it reminded me a lot of that style that does not travel across the ages well of choreographing your song by sticking your arms up in the air.
But it sort of is fun to watch for camp purposes when you see it now, and that's 100%. What makes it entertaining.
100%. Let's turn to the one that I really thought I saw Sarah T. Portrait of a Teenage Alcoholic in the day. I didn't recognize one scene from this movie.
Yeah, it was a really iconic film, TV film at the time, because it was around the time that networks were making these TV movies that had a real social message, whether it was alcoholism or domestic violence or child abuse. And I think Sarah T. really stood out from that because it was about a topic that hadn't been shown about a very young teenager with a really serious drinking problem.
Good cast, good director.
And Mark Hamill.
Well, Mark Hamill,
pre-Star Wars.
I looked it up. He's 24. He's in high school. He's 24, and she's 15 or something. So it kind of worked.
The Exorcist was only 3 years before that, I think, or 3 or 4 years. And
a little inside baseball. The reason they're always on casting sheets, it's called 18 plus TTL or TLL, to look younger, to play younger. If somebody's under 18, it's terrible to hire them. And
well, because of the restrictions around time and tutors
it's awful.
Chaperones.
Yep.
But
they used her. She's coming off The Exorcist.
She's coming off The Exorcist, and I thought she was really good in it.
She's really good.
I mean, she didn't really do a serious movie like that again. I don't think. I think she did like a lot of women in prison films and Roller Boogie, and then kind of retired from acting after that. But she, I think the consequences to her character are really severe, and it's a really brutal story. I mean,
I wrote it down. 90 out of 96 minutes is drunk-a-log.
Yeah.
She gets sober in minute 91 of a 96-minute movie.
Yeah.
And you know what? Liquor and horses don't mix.
That's the message of the film.
Well, there was drunk driving a long time before the Model T, and it was horses. And they show that in it's pretty good, the way they handle that. The horse thing really gets me. I goddamn hate when they're mean to horses, and I'm sure Dick Donner didn't hurt this animal in any way. No.
It was before the awareness about that. But,
it was super. It was super fast edited. Yeah. No, when you watch those old westerns, they use tripwires and stuff. It just, oh my god! And I can tell you this: I knew an actor who grew up. I'll say nothing to hide. Stephanie Zimbalist.
Yeah.
So she must be probably. I'm going to guess 70 years old now. I'm just guessing. Yeah. A little older than me. She was her dad was a TV star in the 1950s, and she was a little girl in the 1950s, and she told me that the central median of Ventura Boulevard, that's the main thoroughfare in the San Fernando Valley it's basically L.A., was a bridle path. She used to ride her horses up, and everybody did. So it made me think of that. I'm watching it. It's very strange when you're watching this movie and they're walking the horse at red lights and through traffic, and he's like, horse a little spooky of lights and stuff. I'm like, because it's a goddamn horse, and you're walking him across Sunset Boulevard. What are we doing here? I think that was a nod to the era when Ventura Boulevard. Okay. It was totally cool to ride your horses up and down the center of it, because there are a lot of used to be farms and ranches and stables and stuff out in that part of town. As not the case anymore.
Not the case anymore,
and
for good reason.
Yeah, that was the she'd fucked up about 20 times, but killing the horse was.
Well, the one that I remember the most was the housekeeper getting fired, for allegedly drinking, and Linda doesn't come clean about it, and it's awful. I mean, that this poor woman that gets laid off for being accused of falsely stealing from the liquor cabinet when it was really the daughter.
I was in a suburban house, not unlike that one, and I heard the parents go, "I thought that you could freeze vodka or keep it in the freezer and it would stay liquid, but it's starting to get slushy." And I didn't say a word. I'm like, I know what's going on in this house.
Yeah, right. I think my parents used to keep vodka in the freezer, and I don't remember it freezing. But
no, it doesn't unless the teenagers are leaking vodka out of it, putting water in it, and sticking back in.
There you go.
That's the case cracker. I'm Columbo. I just got one more thing. I thought alcohol didn't freeze. I got this. Animal crackers. There's no movie I love more, and in Marx Brothers' universe, there's only one couple that we don't give a shit about, that we give a pass to in all of their movies, and it's Lillian Roth in Animal Crackers. She's terrific, and she sings a couple of songs, and she sounded Jewish, and she sounded New Yorkish, and boy, that's right. Now that I say that, Joe Van Fleet lapses into a little Hollywood Yiddish, just a little taste of it. Oh, this I should know from nothing, and you're like, oh, they let her be Jewish for 4 lines of dialogue in a way that the old studio heads, the Titans, Harry Cohn and so on, Goldwyn and on and on and on. the Warners, they were all from Jewish Eastern Europe and were very self-conscious about not playing that card in Hollywood in the 40s and 50s.
Yeah, you had to be careful. It was like a certain amount was okay, but not too much. Right. Then it's too ethnic.
Yep. And so, love it. And I looked it up, and there are pictures of Lillian Roth and Susan Hayward together. So I guess she did get it together. I don't know a lot about that part of the story, but she was really cool and really good. She was a real talent.
Okay.
Not a tall, long-legged sex pot looking like Susan Hayward. She was more Fanny Bryce, but really good.
But they always they always cast somebody who's more glamorous than the actual person.
So let me see. What do you want to say about how these three knock up against each other? I'll Cry Tomorrow, Leaving Las Vegas, and Sarah T.
Well, I think in 2 out of the 3 films, we do see a glimpse of like a light at the end of the tunnel, that there is a solution, meaning in Sarah T, she does, I think, at the end she goes to that Alateen meeting and then she doesn't go back, but then it looks like at the end she is returning.
They leaned into the young pretty hard. That kid looked about 8 that got up and told his story.
And you're kind of like, and she can't handle it and she leaves the meeting. But in any case, to tie them together, Leaving Las Vegas is a very different kind of movie that's not about recovery. It's about self-destruction and with love and empathy along the path towards that. And I mean, there's many other things the film's about too, but and I think that's partly why the film is interesting to people, is the sort of recovery story can get a bit cliche, and to go to another path in demonstrating addiction is interesting to people, and I think that's why the film is successful.
I don't know what AA was like in 1955. I really don't. But Susan Hayward says something like, "I've been to psychiatrists. I've been to spas. I read a brochure from Alcoholics Anonymous." That was like the zinger was, I read a brochure from Alcoholics.
And weren't women not initially allowed to go to AA very early on, or am I incorrect about that? Like in the very, very early days of AA.
Definitely in the super early days. Yeah. And whoever was the first notable woman, she published books, and it was billed as the first woman in AA. But I think that's the 30s. You bring an excellent question. Yeah. I'm making shit up. I don't know what it was in 55.
Okay.
But certainly seemed like it was, a huge stigma. Huge stigma. Yeah. It still kind of is, but nothing like that.
Well, no, because it's more people are more open about it, and the stigma isn't as there. But yeah, certainly it's not gone away completely.
Well, if anyone likes what we've done here today, we did an episode, and the 3 for that were Clean and Sober. Mm-hmm. Help me, what were the other 2?
Days of Wine and Roses.
And A Man and a Woman. No, we mentioned...
we didn't, right. There's Lost Weekend. And
The Lost Weekend. Yeah. That's still my favorite of the 6. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great film.
Yeah.
I think
such a beating.
We're talking about.
I was delighted to hit the pause button on all 3 of these, but I don't know. You think we got 3 more in us?
Oh, I think there's a lot more than 3, but yes, I think we could certainly come up with.
Can we do Cheech and Chong or something? We have got to lighten up.
Yes,
this one like to kill me.
It's been a while. I don't know if those films have aged well, but it would be good to revisit anyway.
All right, amigo. Thanks.
All right,
thanks
thank
for coming in. This is always
a pleasure as always.
No, you're the best. Thanks, Aaron.